welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Or, I might show up at your door. I'm just here to share some creepy stories, so sit back and enjoy. Disclaimer: the content presented in the video is purely for entertainment purposes only. The theories and stories discussed in this video are speculative and are not supported by any evidence or proof. Viewer discretion is advised. Maintenance log number 347, Maya Chun, MTA Engineering Division. The first time I saw it, I thought it was just mineral buildup. Calcium deposits, maybe, or some kind of mold that thrives in the damp darkness where maintenance workers like me rarely venture. I've been working the tunnels for 7 years. You get used to the strange formations that grow in forgotten corners of the subway system. But this was different. I was doing a routine inspection in the older tunnels beneath Canal Street, checking structural integrity after reports of unusual vibrations. These sections date back to the early 1900s, and some chambers connect to abandoned station projects that never saw completion. They don't appear on the public maps. Hell, half of them aren't even on our maintenance schematics. The formation clung to the curved ceiling of the tunnel, about 30 yards from the main line. My flashlight caught it at an angle that made the surface shimmer, almost like it was wet. But when I touched it, it was dry. Not dry like concrete or metal, dry like skin after a fever breaks. I scraped a small sample into a specimen bag. Protocol for unknown substances. The sample was oddly warm against my palm, even through the plastic. "Chen, you still down there?" Rodriguez's voice crackled through my radio, distorted by the tunnel's interference. "Yeah, just finishing up. Found something weird on the south wall of section C14. "Weird how?" I shined my light back at the formation. From this distance, it looked almost like a handprint. If a hand had too many fingers and was 3 feet across. Probably nothing. Some kind of bacterial growth. "I'll log it." "Well, hurry up. Johnson needs these tunnels clear for the 11:30 maintenance train." I took a few photos with my work tablet, then headed back toward the service exit. That should have been the end of it. Just another oddity in a system full of them. But as I climbed the service ladder to the platform at Canal Street, every screen in the station flickered simultaneously. The digital displays that normally showed arrival times, service changes, and advertisements all blinked to black for 3 seconds. Then, in stark white text, "Emergency alert. Anomaly detected in lower tunnels. Maintenance personnel evacuate immediately. Code Biohazard 7. The message displayed for exactly 5 seconds before the screens returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. The handful of late-night commuters on the platform didn't seem to notice, their attention buried in phones or the middle distance of exhaustion. I approached the nearest display and checked the system status. Nothing unusual. No alerts. No record of the message I'd just seen. I called dispatch. "Hey, was there just an emergency alert pushed to the Canal Street displays?" "Negative," replied the dispatcher. "Systems running clean. No alerts authorized tonight." Could it be a test from IT? Or maybe a glitch? Nothing scheduled. "You seeing something down there?" "Chun," I hesitated. "Must have been my imagination. Long shift, get some rest. You're back on tomorrow at 4. I ended the call and glanced back at the screens. Normal service information. No anomalies. The specimen bag felt heavier in my pocket than it should have. My apartment in Astoria isn't much, but the shower pressure is good, and that's what matters after 8 hours in the tunnels. I scrubbed the subway grime from my skin, watching dark water swirl down the drain. The steam fogged the mirror, and I found myself drawing a shape in the condensation. 5 elongated digits spreading from a central mass, just like the formation on the tunnel ceiling. I hadn't meant to draw it. My hand had moved almost automatically. The sample sat on my kitchen counter, still sealed in its plastic bag. Protocol said I should have logged it and left it at the depot for analysis, but something made me bring it home. Curiosity, maybe, or something else. Under better lighting, I could see that the sample wasn't uniform. What I'd thought was some kind of mineral deposit had fine striations, almost like muscle fiber. One edge had a faintly pinkish tint. I took out my personal phone and found Dr. Eliza Patel in my contacts. We dated briefly 2 years ago before her CDC work took her to Atlanta. We'd remained friends, and her expertise in environmental pathogens might be useful now. My thumb hovered over her name. Was I overreacting? Probably. But the alert, an alert nobody else seemed to have seen, mentioned a biohazard code. I texted her, "Found something strange in the subway tunnels. Probably nothing, but has unusual properties. Any chance you could take a look if I send photos?" While waiting for a response, I opened my laptop and searched Biohazard 7 code MTA. No relevant results. My phone buzzed with a notification, but it wasn't Eliza. It was a news alert. Minor delays on A-C E lines due to police activity at Canal Street Station. I turned on New York 1. The ticker at the bottom mentioned police responding to reports of a disturbance, but provided no details. I called a colleague who worked the night shift. "Hey Mark, it's Maya. What's happening at Canal?" Some guy went nuts on the platform, started screaming about something coming through the walls, then jumped onto the tracks. Transit police pulled him out before a train came through. Was he on something? That's what everyone's saying, but get this, when they got him up to street level, he was covered in some kind of rash. Officer Ramirez said it looked like burn marks in a weird pattern. My eyes drifted to the sample on my counter. "Maya? You there?" Yeah, sorry. Did they say which part of the platform?" "South end. By the service door to the old tunnels, right where I'd been working." After we hung up, I took one more look at the sample. The pinkish edge now appeared distinctly redder, and the striations seemed to have shifted position slightly. A trick of the light, surely. My TV suddenly cut to a blue screen with white text. "This is an emergency alert. Do not enter the subway system. Canal Street Station closed until further notice. NYPD Transit Division." The alert vanished after 10 seconds, replaced by the news broadcast, which made no mention of the warning. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Eliza, actually in NYC for a conference. "Let's meet tomorrow. 10 a.m. Coffee shop at Union Square?" I replied immediately, "Perfect. There's something else too. Strange emergency alerts that no one else seems to see." She didn't respond further. Before going to bed, I checked the MTA employee portal for service alerts. Canal Street was listed as experiencing minor delays due to a police investigation, but nothing about station closures or emergency warnings. I sealed the sample in a second bag and placed it in my refrigerator, not entirely sure why. As I turned away, I noticed something on my wrist. A small, red mark where my skin had brushed against the bag. Not painful, just warm to the touch. 5 tiny points like fingerprints. Sleep didn't come easily that night. My dreams filled with dark tunnels and walls that pulsed like living tissue. And somewhere in the distance, the sound of an alert that nobody else could hear. Maintenance log number 348, Maya Chun, MTA Engineering Division. The mark on my wrist had faded by morning. 5 pale dots barely visible against my skin. I convinced myself it was just a mild contact irritation, nothing to worry about. The alternative was too unsettling to consider. I arrived early at the coffee shop near Union Square, choosing a table in the corner where we could speak privately. Eliza was punctual as always, her CDC lanyard still hanging around her neck as she walked in. She'd cut her hair since I'd last seen her, now a practical bob instead of the long waves I remembered. The serious set of her mouth told me she wasn't here just to catch up with an ex. "You look like hell, Maya," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Good to see you too." I pushed a coffee toward her. Black, 2 sugars, the way she always took it. "So," she sipped her coffee, "what's this mysterious subway sample that couldn't wait for proper lab protocols?" I slid the double-bagged specimen across the table. I found it in an abandoned section below Canal Street. It was growing on the ceiling. Eliza held the bag up to the light, her expression shifting from skeptical to concerned. "This isn't fungal. The structure is all wrong." She lowered her voice. "And you said something about emergency alerts?" I showed her the photos on my phone, both of the growth in the tunnel and screenshots I'd taken of my TV during the alert. No one at dispatch knew anything about these warnings. The news never mentioned them. It's like they're meant only for me. Eliza's professional demeanor faltered for just a moment. "Maya, the timing is concerning. I'm not supposed to talk about this, but there have been reports of unusual infections among subway riders, primarily on lines that run through Canal Street." "What kind of infections?" "Skin lesions initially, followed by behavioral changes. The CDC sent me here 3 days ago to investigate quietly. We're calling it an environmental assessment to avoid panic." She lowered her voice further. "The pattern of spread doesn't match any known pathogen." A chill ran through me. "And the MTA hasn't been notified?" "Upper management has. They're cooperating with a limited investigation." Eliza's eyes narrowed. "Which makes me wonder why a maintenance engineer is poking around abandoned tunnels without proper clearance." "Those tunnels were on my inspection route." The lie came easily. The truth that I'd been exploring off-limits areas out of curiosity wouldn't help my credibility. My phone buzzed. A text from Mark. "Weird shit happening at work. Another incident at Canal. Call me. I need to go," I told Eliza, standing abruptly. "Something's happening at Canal Street again." Eliza took the sample and slipped it into her bag. "I'll get this analyzed properly. Be careful, Maya, and wear protective gear if you're going back into those tunnels." I met Mark at a diner 3 blocks from the Canal Street station. His hands trembled as he stirred sugar into his coffee, spilling some onto the table. "They found 2 more people this morning," he said without preamble. "Maintenance workers. In the same tunnel section you were inspecting yesterday." My stomach tightened. "Found them how?" "Disoriented, talking nonsense, covered in these weird, geometric rashes." Mark pulled out his phone and showed me a photo he'd taken surreptitiously. The image showed an arm with distinct markings, not random inflammation but precise patterns, like circuit boards etched into flesh. "Jesus," I whispered. "What's causing it? Nobody knows. Or if they do, they're not saying." Mark leaned closer. "But that's not the strangest part." Both guys kept repeating the same phrase. "It's coming through the walls," the same words the man on the platform had screamed before jumping onto the tracks. "The tunnels are being sealed off for structural assessment," Mark continued. "And there's some government types down there now. Not just transit police, guys in hazmat suits taking samples." I thought of Eliza and her environmental assessment. "Officers were questioning everyone who's been in that section recently," Mark added. "I mentioned you'd been doing inspections there." "Great," I muttered. "Sorry, they were really insistent. Oh, and Officer Ramirez specifically asked about you. Said he needed your observations about any unusual formations or structural abnormalities." Keith Ramirez was a transit cop I'd worked with occasionally. Competent but typically disinterested in maintenance details. His sudden curiosity was notable. My phone chimed with a notification. Not a text, but an alert that filled the entire screen. "Emergency alert. Biological contamination protocol activated. Canal Street Station quarantine in effect. Do not approach affected individuals. Report unusual markings to MTA security." I showed the screen to Mark. "Are you seeing this?" He glanced at my phone, confused. "Seeing what?" "Your screen's blank." The alert message was still clearly visible to me. "You don't see an emergency alert?" "No, man. Your phone just lit up, but there's nothing on it." Mark's expression shifted from confusion to concern. "You feeling okay? You look pale." I pocketed my phone. "I'm fine. Just tired." We parted ways shortly after, Mark heading home and me wandering toward the station, drawn by a compulsion I couldn't name. Police barricades blocked the main entrance to Canal Street, with officers redirecting commuters to buses. A sign simply read "Station closed for maintenance." I circled to the service entrance I normally used, finding it guarded by a transit officer I didn't recognize. Beyond him, I glimpsed figures in white hazmat suits moving equipment into the tunnel. "Excuse me," a voice called from behind. I turned to find Officer Ramirez approaching, his transit police uniform impeccable as always. But something was off. His eyes seemed too wide, and a light sheen of sweat covered his forehead despite the cool temperature. "Chen, been looking for you," he said, his voice strained. "Need to ask about your inspection yesterday." "Sure. What do you want to know? Did you see anyone else down there? Or anything unusual?" "Nothing out of the ordinary," I lied. "Just checking structural integrity after those vibration reports." Ramirez studied my face too intensely, then grabbed my wrist suddenly, turning it over to examine my skin. Pulled away. "What the hell, Ramirez?" "Sorry," he mumbled, his composure cracking slightly. "Just checking procedure, you know?" He tugged at his collar, and I caught sight of something on his neck, the edge of a geometric pattern disappearing beneath his uniform. "You okay, Keith?" "Fine. It's fine. Everything's under control." His radio crackled, and he stepped away to answer it, speaking too quietly for me to hear. When he returned, his professional demeanor was back in place. "Dr. Patel from the CDC wants to speak with you. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., at the MTA Operations Center." "Eliza called you? You know Dr. Patel?" Ramirez seemed surprised, then suspicious. "She's heading the investigation team. Very interested in the tunnels you inspected." "We're acquainted," I said vaguely. "I'll be there." As Ramirez walked away, I noticed his gait was slightly off, as if he was fighting against an impulse to move differently. On my way home, every digital display I passed, from shop windows to bank ATMs, momentarily flickered to show the same alert message I'd seen on my phone. Each time, no one around me seemed to notice. In my apartment, I examined my wrist more carefully. The marks had reappeared, darker now, with thin lines extending outward like roots seeking soil. In the shower, I scrubbed until my skin was raw, but the pattern remained. My dreams that night were invaded by whispers that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Unintelligible murmurings punctuated by clear phrases that echoed like announcements over a subway PA system. "The network is expanding. New hosts connected. Signal strength increasing." I woke to find myself standing in front of my refrigerator at 3 a.m., with no memory of having left my bed. On the refrigerator door, I'd drawn the same 5-fingered pattern I'd seen in the tunnel, rendered perfectly in black marker. The whispers hadn't stopped with waking. They continued, faint but distinct, coming through the walls of my apartment. "Canal Street is only the beginning. Maintenance log number 349, Maya Chun, MTA Engineering Division." I arrived at the MTA Operations Center an hour early, hoping to access the maintenance database before my meeting with Eliza. The center was unusually quiet. Skeleton crew. No chatter about weekend plans or complaints about management. Those present moved with the mechanical efficiency of people trying not to draw attention to themselves. Marissa at the front desk barely looked up as I badged in. Her hand trembled slightly as she logged my entry, and I noticed a bandage on her forearm, partially hidden by her sleeve. When she caught me looking, she quickly tugged the fabric down. "Conference room B for your meeting," she said flatly. "Dr. Patel isn't here yet." I nodded my thanks and headed to my workstation first. The office was divided into cubicles, most empty at this hour. My terminal required a fingerprint scan to unlock, and I hesitated briefly before pressing my thumb to the reader. The 5 marks on my wrist had darkened overnight, spreading slightly up my arm in thin, vein-like lines. The system accepted my print and displayed the usual interface. I navigated to the maintenance reports for the Canal Street tunnels, searching for any documentation of unusual findings. To my surprise, I found several reports filed in the past month, all mentioning anomalous growth patterns or unidentified structural abnormalities in the lower levels. More disturbing than the reports themselves was their status. All marked reviewed and dismissed, and no action required by senior management. The most recent report, filed just 3 days before my inspection, included photos of a formation identical to what I'd found, but larger, covering nearly 20 square feet of tunnel ceiling. That report had been submitted by Luis Valles, one of the maintenance workers now hospitalized. A new folder appeared on my screen, blinking for attention. Protocol 7, Biohazard Containment, Restricted. I hadn't opened it. It simply materialized as if pushed to my terminal remotely. Inside was a single document, a memorandum dated 2 weeks ago, to Transit Security Division, from Office of Emergency Management, Biological Anomaly Containment Procedures. Classification: Top Secret, Need to Know Basis Only. Following confirmation of non-terrestrial biological activity in the Canal Street tunnel system, the following containment procedures are to be implemented immediately. 1. All reports of structural abnormalities to be reclassified as routine mineral deposits. 2. Affected maintenance personnel to be quarantined under cover of respiratory infection protocol. 3. Surveillance of spread pattern to continue until military containment team arrival. 4. No public alerts to be issued regardless of contamination level. Note: initial analysis suggests the organism responds to electrical systems and may be capable of rudimentary communication through digital interfaces. All emergency alerts regarding this situation must be vetted through Command Center Alpha. I quickly took screenshots with my phone, my hands shaking as the implications sank in. They'd known about this for weeks. They were watching it spread. And what did non-terrestrial mean exactly? As I closed the document, the entire folder vanished from my system. A moment later, my terminal rebooted itself, displaying only the standard login screen as if I'd never accessed it. My phone vibrated in my pocket with another alert. Emergency alert. Unauthorized access detected. Information breach protocol activated. Security personnel en route to your location. I looked up to see 2 security officers entering the office area, speaking quietly with Marissa at the front desk. She pointed in my direction. There was a service door near my cubicle that led to the maintenance corridors. I slipped through it just as the guards began walking toward my workstation. The corridor was dimly lit and smelled of disinfectant, stronger than usual, as if recently and thoroughly cleaned. I followed the passage toward Conference Room B, planning to pretend I'd been waiting there all along. As I passed a storage closet, I heard voices from inside, one of them unmistakably Eliza's. "The growth rate is exponential," she was saying. "At this pace, the entire Canal Street station will be compromised within days. We need to evacuate a 10-block radius minimum. The public panic would be unmanageable," replied a male voice I didn't recognize. "The National Guard isn't ready for deployment until tomorrow at the earliest. Then we're looking at hundreds more infections, possibly thousands," Eliza argued. "These aren't just rashes. The neural changes are profound. The host network is..." She stopped abruptly as I accidentally bumped against the door. There was silence, then footsteps approaching. I hurried down the corridor and into Conference Room B, trying to look composed when the door opened a minute later. Eliza entered, followed by a tall man in a military uniform, captain's insignia, though no name badge was visible. "Maya," Eliza said, her professional demeanor firmly in place. "Thank you for coming in. This is Captain Hargrove. He has some questions about your inspection of the Canal Street tunnels." Captain Hargrove didn't offer a handshake. His eyes flicked to my wrist, where the sleeve of my jacket had risen slightly, revealing the edge of my spreading marks. "Ms. Chun," he said coolly, "I understand you removed a biological sample from MTA property without authorization." "I was following standard protocol for unidentified substances," I replied, tugging my sleeve down. "Document, sample, report." "And yet no official report was filed," Hargrove noted. "Only a specimen removed from the site and shared with Dr. Patel outside official channels." I glanced at Eliza, whose expression remained carefully neutral. I was concerned about what I found. The formation seemed Unusual. Had you seen anything similar in your previous inspections? Hargrove asked.
No.
Never. And the emergency alerts you mentioned to Dr. Patel? Could you describe those again? I explained about the alerts on the station displays, my TV, phone, and other digital screens around the city. With each detail, Hargrove and Eliza exchanged increasingly troubled glances. These alerts, Hargrove said carefully, were they always visible to only you? No one else observed them, correct? At least, no one admitted to seeing them. Hargrove turned to Eliza. It's targeting her specifically. The network is evolving faster than we anticipated. What network? I demanded. What's really happening in those tunnels? Before either could answer, all our phones chimed simultaneously with an alert. Citywide emergency broadcast. Air quality warning for Lower Manhattan. Residents advised to remain indoors. Subway service suspended on all lines through Canal Street. This time, both Eliza and Hargrove reacted to the message. It's gone public, Eliza whispered. How? It's in the emergency alert system now, Hargrove said grimly. We've lost containment. The building's PA system crackled to life. Attention all personnel. Please proceed calmly to emergency exits. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Hargrove's radio buzzed. He listened briefly, his expression darkening. We have multiple reports of mass behavioral anomalies at Canal Street. The infected are gathering. We need to see it, I said suddenly, the words coming unbidden. I need to go back to the tunnels. Absolutely not, Hargrove began, but Eliza interrupted. Actually, she might be our best chance to understand what's happening. The organism is clearly communicating with her through the alert system. It chose her for a reason, or she's already compromised, Hargrove countered, eyeing my concealed wrist. I'm fine, I insisted, though the whispers I'd heard all morning suggested otherwise. But I think it wants me to see something. Something in the deepest tunnels. Eliza looked at me intently. What makes you say that? I couldn't explain the certainty I felt. The pull toward the abandoned sections below Canal Street. Just a feeling. Hargrove's radio buzzed again. After listening, he cursed under his breath. The quarantine team at Canal Street has lost contact with command. Last report indicated the growth has accelerated dramatically. Then we go now, Eliza decided. Maya knows those tunnels and the organism seems to be connecting with her. If we want to understand what we're dealing with before it spreads further, she's our best option. Hargrove reluctantly agreed. I'll arrange transport and a security detail. Dr. Patel, prepare your equipment. Ms. Chun, I want you in full hazmat gear, monitored at all times. As they discussed logistics, my phone lit up with a message that neither of them seemed to receive. Emergency alert. The network welcomes you, Maya Chun. Your return to Canal Street is anticipated. The walls are thinning. We are coming through. Beneath the text was an image, the exact five-fingered pattern from the tunnel ceiling, now fully mirrored on my skin beneath my sleeve. Audio recording number 1, Maya Chun, MTA Engineering Division. I've switched to recording instead of writing. It's harder to keep a steady hand for my maintenance log now that the marks have spread past my wrist. This recorder was in my emergency kit, standard issue for MTA personnel working in the deep tunnels where radio communication fails. We're in a military transport heading to Canal Street. 6 of us. Me, Eliza, Captain Hargrove, 2 soldiers whose names I didn't catch, and Officer Ramirez, who insisted on joining us. He hasn't made eye contact with me since we departed the operations center. The streets are eerily quiet for a New York afternoon. Digital billboards in Times Square flashed the air quality warning as we passed. But the message changed when I looked directly at them. The network expands. Maya Chun approaches. Preparation at 67%. I didn't point it out to the others. Hargrove already suspects I'm compromised, and he might be right. The marks now extend to my elbow. A delicate lacework of lines forming that same 5-pointed pattern repeating like a fractal. It doesn't hurt. If anything, it feels right, like something that was always meant to be there. Eliza is watching me closely as I record this. She's been taking hourly blood samples from my arm, though she won't share what she's found. The CDC equipment she brought is more advanced than anything I've seen before, portable analyzers that seem too sophisticated for a routine environmental assessment. Ramirez keeps scratching at his neck. The collar of his uniform doesn't quite hide the geometric patterns spreading across his skin. I wonder if he hears the whispers too. We've arrived at Canal Street. The military has established a perimeter 3 blocks in every direction. Civilians have been evacuated under the pretense of a gas leak, but rumors are spreading. I glimpsed a news van trying to get past the barricades. The entrance to the station is nothing like I remember. The concrete has changed. There's no other word for it. Veins of something crystalline run through the walls, pulsing with a faint bioluminescence. The air feels thick, almost gelatinous in my lungs despite the hazmat suit's filtration system. Hargrove's men have set up portable lights that cast harsh shadows against the transformed walls. Scientists in protective gear are taking samples, their movements cautious, almost reverential. It's grown exponentially since yesterday. Eliza murmurs through our comm system. The biomass has integrated with the structural concrete, replacing it molecule by molecule. This isn't possible, Hargrove responds, his voice tight. Nothing evolves this quickly. Unless it's been waiting, I hear myself say, dormant until the right conditions emerged. They both look at me, and I realize I have no idea where that thought came from. We descend to the platform level. The transformation is more pronounced here. The standard subway tiles now ripple with those same flowing, circuit-like patterns that mark my skin. The tracks gleam with a film that captures and reflects light in impossible ways, breaking it into colors I can't quite name. Jesus Christ, one of the soldiers whispers. Officer Ramirez steps forward suddenly, moving toward the edge of the platform. I can hear it, he says, his voice distant. It's calling us down. Hargrove grabs him by the shoulder. Stay with the group, officer. Ramirez turns, and in the harsh light, I can see that the patterns on his neck have spread across his face. Delicate lines framing his eyes, which now have a strange luminosity. Don't you feel it, Captain? Ramirez asks. The network is nearly complete. We're being connected to something vast. He's infected, one of the soldiers says, raising his weapon. Sir, we should terminate and contain. Stand down, Hargrove orders. We need to understand the progression. Eliza moves closer to Ramirez, scanner in hand. Keith, can you describe what you're experiencing? What network are you referring to? Ramirez smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. It's beautiful, Dr. Patel, a lattice of consciousness spanning dimensions, and it needs hosts to complete the connection. His gaze shifts to me. Maya understands. She's been hearing the alerts. The walls are thinning between our world and theirs. I want to deny it, but the whispers have been growing stronger since we entered the station. They form words now, clear and insistent. The gate requires completion. Bring her to the source chamber. There's a chamber, I say, the words flowing unbidden. Below the lowest maintenance level. It's where this began. How do you know that? Hargrove demands. I just know. Eliza checks her scanner, frowning at the readings. Maya's neural activity is highly unusual. Theta waves significantly amplified, similar to patterns we've seen in the other infected, but more structured. I'm not infected, I insist, though the evidence on my skin argues otherwise. I'm just receiving, like a radio picking up a signal. The lights flicker, and every screen in the station, departure boards, advertising displays, even the soldiers' tactical tablets, flash simultaneously. Emergency alert. Source chamber access required. Maya-chan must complete the circuit. Resistance is counterproductive. It's targeting you specifically, Eliza says, her scientific detachment slipping. Maya, what did you really find in that tunnel? Before I can answer, a low rumble shakes the station. Dust and small fragments of the transformed ceiling rain down around us. Seismic activity increasing. Reports one of the soldiers, checking a device on his wrist. Similar to what was reported before the first growth was discovered. Ramirez laughs, a hollow sound that echoes unnaturally through the station. Not seismic, it's attempting to manifest physically. The dimensional barrier is weakening. Hargrove signals to his men. We're pulling back. This location isn't secure. No, I find myself saying, we need to go deeper, to the source chamber. It's the only way to understand what's happening. That's exactly what it wants, Hargrove argues. It's manipulating you, Chen. Maybe, I admit. But what if this is an attempt at communication? What if fighting it only makes things worse? The rumbling intensifies. A crack appears in the platform, widening as we watch. From within, something glows with the same bioluminescence as the wall patterns. Eliza's scanner beeps urgently. The biological activity is off the charts. Whatever's happening, it's accelerating. Officer Ramirez steps toward the widening crack, mesmerized. The network welcomes all, he murmurs. Resistance is. He doesn't finish. The crack suddenly expands beneath him, and with a surprised cry, Ramirez drops into the darkness below. The opening seals almost immediately, leaving no trace of the officer. Get everyone out now, Hargrove shouts into his radio. The evacuation alarm blares throughout the station, its familiar tone distorted into something almost melodic. As we rush toward the exit, my phone vibrates in my pocket. Impossible, given that all communications should be blocked by the interference down here. The screen shows a message. Emergency alert. Officer Ramirez has joined the network. Your resistance delays inevitable integration. The source chamber awaits. Maya-chan. Below the text is an image, a map of the tunnel system showing a path deeper than any official diagram I've ever seen, leading to a chamber directly beneath Canal Street. A chamber that, according to MTA records, doesn't exist. Maya. Eliza is at my side, concern evident even through her hazmat visor. We need to go. I nod and follow, but as we ascend to street level, the whispers follow. You will return. The network requires completion. The walls between worlds grow thin. Outside, the sky has taken on a strange quality, not quite overcast, not quite clear. The air shimmers like heat waves rising from hot pavement, though the temperature is cool. Digital displays on nearby buildings flash between the official air quality warning and messages only I can see. Hargrove is already coordinating with a larger military presence that has arrived during our descent. I overhear fragments: full quarantine, potential evacuation zone, asset containment protocols. Eliza pulls me aside, speaking quietly. The marks on your skin, they're not just surface changes. Your cellular structure is being rewritten at a molecular level. Your DNA shows signs of engineering. What does that mean? It means, she says, her voice barely above a whisper, that whatever this is, it's not just infecting people, it's transforming them, creating a new biological architecture for some purpose we don't yet understand. My phone vibrates again with another alert. The purpose is connection. The network requires completion. Return to the source, Maya-chan. And for the first time, I find myself wanting to obey. Audio recording number 2, Maya-chan, MTA Engineering Division. They've quarantined me in a makeshift medical facility 6 blocks from Canal Street. The building used to be a bank, high ceilings, marble floors, now filled with military-grade medical equipment and personnel in biosafety suits. They took my phone, my clothes, everything that might connect me to the outside world. This recorder is the only thing they let me keep, after Eliza convinced Hargrove it might help document the progression of my condition. The patterns have spread across my entire right arm now, extending onto my shoulder and collarbone. Delicate, fractal lines that glow faintly in darkness. The doctors here photograph them hourly, noting every millimeter of expansion. They've stopped taking blood samples after 3 needles broke against my skin. The molecular structure has changed somehow, becoming crystalline at a microscopic level. Eliza visits twice daily, though I can tell each visit disturbs her more than the last. She tries to maintain scientific detachment, but I've known her too long not to see the fear behind her questions. The pattern is self-organizing, she told me this morning. It's not random growth, it's creating a specific structure across your epidermis. Almost like a circuit board, I finished for her. Or a receiver. She didn't deny it. The whispers are constant now, coherent words flowing beneath the ambient sounds of the facility. They tell me about the network, about the source chamber deep beneath Canal Street, about a connection waiting to be completed. Something ancient, dormant for centuries, awakened by the vibrations of subway construction and powered by the electrical grid of a city that never sleeps. Sometimes I hear Officer Ramirez's voice among the whispers. He sounds peaceful, connected. Something happened today. One of the military doctors was checking my vital signs when his tablet suddenly displayed an alert message. Not just to him, but visible to everyone in the room. Emergency alert. Quarantine protocols have failed. The network grows. Manhattan integration at 43%. The doctor dropped the tablet in shock. For the first time, others saw what I've been seeing for days. Alarms blared throughout the facility. Through my window, I could see people running in the streets. Not the orderly evacuation you'd expect from a trained military operation, but chaotic, panicked flight. Above them, every digital billboard and screen displayed the same alert message, now visible to everyone. Captain Hargrove burst into my room, face ashen beneath his mask. "What did you do?" he demanded. "Nothing," I answered truthfully. "It's evolving, learning to communicate with everyone, not just me." Bullshit. The infection was contained to Canal Street and the adjacent tunnels. Now we're getting reports of outbreaks across Lower Manhattan. People displaying the same markings as you, all moving towards subway entrances like they're being called. Behind him, Eliza appeared in the doorway. "She's telling the truth, Captain. The organism isn't spreading through conventional contagion. It's using the city's infrastructure. Power lines, data cables, water mains, anything connected in a network." "That's impossible," Hargrove insisted. Eliza held up her tablet showing a map of Manhattan, overlaid with pulsing red nodes. "These are infection clusters. Notice the pattern? They follow the underground infrastructure exactly. The subway tunnels, yes, but also utility corridors, sewage systems, telecom conduits. It's using our city's connective tissue to spread." My skin tingled as she spoke, the patterns glowing brighter. "It's more than spreading," I said. "It's converting. The city itself is becoming part of the network." As if confirming my words, the building shuddered. Plaster dust rained from the ceiling, and the marble floor beneath our feet developed hairline fractures that spread outward in familiar, geometric patterns. "Full evacuation," Hargrove barked into his radio. "Get everyone north of 14th Street. And put the bridge and tunnel crossings on lockdown. Nothing gets in or out of Manhattan." "That won't stop it," I said with inexplicable certainty. "Not unless you understand what it wants." "And you do," Hargrove challenged. Before I could answer, every screen in the facility, monitors, tablets, even the digital watch on Hargrove's wrist, displayed a new message. "Emergency alert. The source chamber requires Maya Chun. Bring her to complete the circuit or witness total integration." Hargrove and Eliza exchanged glances. "It's been targeting you from the beginning," Eliza said softly. "The question is why?" I didn't have an answer, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Images flooded my mind. The source chamber, a space beneath Canal Street where reality seemed thinner somehow. A place where something waited to fully manifest. "I need to go there," I said. "To the chamber." "Absolutely not," Hargrove snapped. "Whatever this organism is, it clearly wants you for some purpose. We're not delivering you to it." The building shook again, more violently this time. Through the window, I could see transformations spreading across the cityscape. Buildings developing the same crystalline veins that had appeared in the subway, street lights pulsing with bioluminescence, the asphalt itself rippling like living tissue. My skin burned, the patterns spreading visibly now, climbing up my neck. Knowledge that wasn't mine flowed through my mind. Understanding of the network, its purpose, the ancient entity trying to establish connection between dimensions. "Captain," I said, my voice strangely calm, "you have two options. Take me to the source chamber where I might be able to communicate with it, or watch as it transforms Manhattan piece by piece, using people like Ramirez as conduits." "She's right," Eliza interjected. "If this is a form of communication, an attempt at contact, then Maya may be the interface it's created. Fighting it clearly isn't working." Hargrove's radio crackled with panicked reports. More outbreaks, more transformations, the military perimeter around Canal Street collapsing as soldiers developed the same markings and abandoned their posts. "Fine," he finally conceded. "But we do this with a full tactical team. At the first sign that this is a trap, we pull out and implement the nuclear contingency." My blood ran cold. Nuclear? The president authorized it an hour ago. If we can't contain this to Manhattan, we're prepared to sacrifice the island. The whispers in my mind grew frantic, almost panicked. Not at the threat, but at the misunderstanding. They do not comprehend. The network is not destruction. The network is ascension. We're moving through the city in an armored personnel carrier. The streets are nearly unrecognizable, transformed by the spreading organism into a landscape that defies conventional architecture. Buildings pulse with internal light, sidewalks ripple underfoot, streetlights have become towering crystalline structures that bend toward our vehicle as we pass. Hargrove's tactical team consists of 6 soldiers in heavy gear, their weapons trained on anything that moves. Eliza sits beside me, taking readings with her instruments, her scientific curiosity warring with obvious fear. "Your transformation is accelerating," she notes, scanning the patterns that now cover most of my upper body. "But your vital signs are stable, better than stable, enhanced. Your cellular regeneration rate is beyond anything I've ever seen." I nod, not surprised. I feel stronger, more aware. The whispers have organized into a coherent stream of information, teaching me about the network, preparing me for what's to come. We pass Washington Square Park, now transformed into a forest of crystalline structures that reach toward the sky like ancient monoliths. People move among them, not fleeing, but walking with purpose, their skin marked with the same patterns as mine. They watch our vehicle pass without expression. "They're connected now," I explained to Eliza. "Part of the network. Are they still themselves?" she asks. "Yes and no. They're more than they were. The individual remains, but joined to something larger." Hargrove scoffs from the front seat. "Sounds like a pretty way of describing a hive mind." "Not a hive," I correct him. "A network. Individuals linked but not subsumed. Think of the internet, but for consciousness." As we approach Canal Street, the transformation grows more profound. The streets are no longer streets but living corridors, pulsing with energy. The buildings have become nodes in a vast system, their original functions replaced by whatever role they now serve in the network. My phone, confiscated earlier and now in Eliza's possession, lights up with a message. "Emergency alert. Maya-chan approaches. The circuit nears completion. Prepare the source chamber." Eliza shows it to me, her expression grim. "What happens when the circuit completes, Maya?" The answer comes to me with perfect clarity, though I don't know how I know it. Connection. The entity on the other side fully interfaces with our reality. "And then what?" Hargrove demands. I meet his eyes in the rearview mirror. Transformation. For everything. The vehicle stops a block from Canal Street Station. Further progress is impossible. The road ahead has become something else entirely. A flowing river of crystalline material that would engulf any vehicle that attempted to cross. "We go on foot from here," Hargrove orders. "Stay tight, weapons ready." As I step from the vehicle, the whispers rise to a crescendo, and every transformed surface around us, walls, street, even the air itself, displays the same message. Maya-chan has arrived. The final connection approaches. The source chamber awaits. Hargrove's men form a protective circle around me and Eliza as we make our way toward what was once the Canal Street subway entrance. But with each step, I feel the pull growing stronger. The network calling me to complete what began days ago with a simple inspection of an unusual growth pattern in an abandoned tunnel. "Are you sure about this?" Eliza whispers, gripping my arm, the one not yet fully transformed. "I'm not sure. Not at all. But I know with absolute certainty that there's no turning back." Forum post by user Mayachan_. Timestamp corrupted. I'm writing this from a terminal I found in an abandoned internet cafe on East 10th Street. The power flickers, but somehow the connection remains stable, like the network wants me to communicate. My hands shake as I type, the crystalline patterns now extending to my fingertips, making each keystroke feel like I'm playing an instrument I never learned. It's been 12 hours since we left the quarantine facility. The city I knew is gone. We never made it to the source chamber yesterday. The tactical team encountered what used to be Officer Ramirez at the Canal Street entrance. At least something wearing Ramirez's face, his skin a web of luminous circuitry, his movements fluid but wrong, like a marionette operated by unfamiliar hands. He smiled at us, and I swear his teeth had become translucent, light pulsing behind them in rhythmic patterns. "The network welcomes you, Maya," he said, his voice overlaid with harmonics that made Hargrove's men double over in pain. "But you're early. Preparation is incomplete." Before Hargrove could give the order to fire, Ramirez melted, no other word for it, into the transformed floor of the station, becoming one with the pulsing infrastructure. The tactical team opened fire anyway, their bullets disappearing into the living architecture without effect. The walls responded, extruding crystalline spikes that forced us to retreat. "Regroup at the quarantine facility," Hargrove ordered. But when we arrived back at the converted bank building, it too had transformed. The marble facade now writhing with the same patterns that mark my skin, the doors sealed with crystalline growths. Hargrove's radio crackled with reports of similar transformations spreading through adjacent neighborhoods, each one following the underground utility networks like advancing tendrils. We scattered. There was nothing else to do. The soldiers headed north under orders to establish a new perimeter at 14th Street. Hargrove went to the emergency command center at the Javits Center. Eliza insisted on staying with me, despite my warnings about the acceleration of my condition. "I'm a doctor," she said firmly, "and this may be the most important epidemiological event in human history." I didn't tell her that what's happening isn't an epidemic. Something else entirely. A metamorphosis. A reconnection. We found temporary shelter in an abandoned deli on St. Mark's Place, watching through the windows as the transformation claimed more of the East Village. The patterns spread along the streets in perfect geometric precision, following the hidden infrastructure beneath. Subway lines, water mains, electrical conduits, data cables. Everything that makes the city a network was becoming part of the network. And then came the people. Not fleeing, not panicking, but walking with eerie purpose through the transformed streets. Normal-looking New Yorkers at first glance, until you noticed the faint luminous lines beneath their skin, the slightly too perfect coordination of their movements. They gathered at transformed subway entrances, disappearing below ground in orderly groups. "They're being summoned," Eliza whispered, her scientific detachment finally cracking, like worker bees returning to the hive. "No," I corrected her, the knowledge flowing through me unbidden. "They're becoming nodes, connection points, the organic component of the network." Eliza gripped my hand, the one still mostly human. "Maya, can you feel it trying to control you too? To make you go to them?" I shook my head. "Not control. It's inviting me, but it's waiting for something specific. The right moment." As darkness fell, the transformation of the city accelerated. Buildings no longer merely displayed the patterns. They began to reshape themselves, structural elements flowing like liquid, hardening into new configurations that served purposes I somehow understood but couldn't explain to Eliza. Power lines detached from poles and burrowed into the transformed streets like living roots. Traffic lights sprouted crystalline antennae that pulsed in synchronized rhythms. Every digital screen in our view, from abandoned smartphones to the massive billboard on Astor Place, displayed the same message: emergency alert, Manhattan integration at 67%. Prepare for synaptic alignment. All nodes report to nearest collection point. What's a collection point? Eliza asked, her voice tight with fear. Before I could answer, a sound cut through the night. A low, resonant tone that made my transformed skin vibrate in sympathy. All across the visible cityscape, the transformed citizens stopped, turned in unison, and began moving with renewed purpose. We need to see what they're doing, I said, already moving toward the door. Eliza grabbed my arm. Are you insane? You want to follow them? I need to understand, I insisted. The whispers. They're telling me this is important. We followed at a distance, watching as hundreds of people converged on Union Square. The park had been transformed beyond recognition. The trees fused with crystalline structures that reached toward the sky, the pavement replaced by a pulsing membrane that undulated like the surface of a liquid. In the center of the square, what had once been the subway entrance had expanded into a massive crystalline structure, its geometry impossible, angles that hurt the eye to follow. People approached it in perfect lines, stepping onto the membrane, which rippled at their touch. One by one, they were absorbed, not falling through, but merging with the surface, their bodies becoming patterns of light that flowed downward, toward something deep below. They're being consumed, Eliza gasped. Transformed, I corrected, understanding flowing through me. Their consciousness is being uploaded to the network, their physical forms repurposed. A police helicopter appeared overhead, spotlights raking the square. Immediately, transformed citizens looked up in unison. The crystalline structures around the square extended upward with impossible speed, wrapping around the helicopter like liquid fingers solidifying into a cage. The aircraft never had time to react. It was pulled down with inexorable force, not crashing but sinking into the transformed park, becoming part of the growing structure. Every screen in the vicinity changed. Emergency alert. Resistance impedes integration. Accelerating timeline. Maya-chan report to source chamber immediately. My skin burned as the patterns flared with new intensity. Through the pain, I saw Eliza staring at me in horror. The patterns had reached my face, crawling across my cheeks toward my eyes. Maya, your eyes. I caught my reflection in a store window. My irises had begun to crystallize, faceting like diamonds, glowing with the same inner light as the transformed city. I can see it, I whispered. The network. It's beautiful. Through these new eyes, I saw the city differently, not as infrastructure and buildings, but as a vast, living organism coming into awareness. The transformed citizens weren't victims but neural pathways, their consciousness contributing to something greater than any individual. And beneath it all, in the source chamber deep under Canal Street, the entity waited, not malevolent, not benevolent, but alien beyond human conception, reaching across dimensions to establish connection. Maya! Eliza's voice snapped me back. She was holding her CDC tablet, the screen flickering between the emergency alert and something else, a schematic of Lower Manhattan, showing the spread of the transformation. Look at this pattern. It's not random. It's creating a massive circuit with Canal Street at the center. As she spoke, military jets screamed overhead, F-35s flying dangerously low between buildings. Seconds later, explosions rocked the financial district. The network's response was immediate. All screens changed to a new message. Emergency alert. Integration threatened. Defensive protocols engaged. All citizens will be preserved. The transformed buildings rippled, their structures flowing like liquid, hardening into new configurations. Massive crystalline spires that reached toward the jets, not as weapons but as broadcast towers. As they extended upward, a pulse of energy radiated outward, visible as rings of light that expanded across the sky. The jets faltered, their electronics presumably overwhelmed. One managed to turn back north, trailing smoke. The other two lost control, spiraling toward the transformed cityscape below. Instead of crashing, they were caught by extending crystalline nets, gently lowered and absorbed into the network like everything else that threatened it. "It's not destroying," I murmured. "It's incorporating." Eliza gripped my shoulders. "Maya, listen to me. Whatever this is, it's calling to you specifically. You're somehow key to its plans. We need to find Hargrove. Tell him it's too late for that," I interrupted, pointing north. The skyline toward Midtown was changing, the iconic buildings reshaping themselves, sprouting crystalline extensions that reached toward each other, forming arches, bridges, a new kind of urban nervous system. The Empire State Building had become a massive transmission tower, its spire pulsing with energy that flowed down to the streets below. "It's happening too fast," Eliza said. "The military can't contain this." "They never could," I replied, the knowledge flowing from the whispers. "The entity has been waiting beneath Manhattan for centuries. The subway tunnels just provided the final connection it needed." A new alert appeared, this one only visible to me, floating in my crystallized vision. "Maya-chan, the preparation is complete. The source chamber awaits. The final circuit requires your presence." I felt a pull, not physical, but something deeper, a yearning connection drawing me toward Canal Street. "I have to go," I told Eliza. "It's time." "No." She grabbed my wrist, then flinched back. My skin was hot to the touch, the patterns glowing brighter. "Maya, this could be the end of humanity as we know it. You can't just surrender to it." I looked at her, really looked with my transformed eyes. I could see the fear in her, the desperate need to categorize and control what was happening. But I could also see something else, the faint beginning of patterns beneath her own skin, not yet visible to normal perception. The network had already touched her. It was just a matter of time. "It's not the end, Eliza," I said gently. "It's a connection, and I'm the interface." As I turned to leave, the ground beneath us trembled. Not like an earthquake, more like a sleeping giant shifting, preparing to rise. All across the transformed city, a final message appeared. "Emergency alert. Final integration commencing. The network awakens." I stepped onto the transformed street, feeling it yield beneath my feet, recognizing me as part of itself. Behind me, Eliza called my name, her voice already fading as the network embraced me, guiding me toward my purpose in the source chamber below Canal Street. I don't know if I'll return from what awaits me there. I don't know if I will even continue to exist as Maya-chan once the circuit is complete. But I'm no longer afraid. The city is changing. The network grows, and I am becoming something new. Connection lost. Post terminated. Audio transmission recovered from CDC emergency frequency. Timestamp 2247. This is Dr. Eliza Patel, CDC Epidemic Intelligence Service. I'm recording this as I follow Maya-chan toward the Canal Street station. If anyone receives this, understand that Manhattan is lost. The transformation has claimed nearly 70% of the island according to my last readings. The military perimeter at 14th Street collapsed 3 hours ago. The patterns are spreading into Brooklyn and Queens through the underwater tunnels. Maya moves with eerie precision through streets that no longer resemble any urban landscape I recognize. The pavement ripples beneath her feet like water welcoming a familiar touch. The buildings around us pulse with bioluminescence, structures that were once apartments and businesses now serving incomprehensible functions in the growing network. I'm following at a distance. She's unaware of my presence, or perhaps the network simply doesn't consider me a threat worth noting. The patterns have appeared on my forearm now, faint but unmistakable. I can feel them spreading beneath my skin, a tingling sensation accompanied by whispers just below the threshold of comprehension. Wait, Maya has stopped. She's looking up at what was once a nondescript office building near the Canal Street station. The structure has transformed more dramatically than its neighbors, its facade now a complex, fractal pattern of crystalline growths that extend upward for 20 stories. As we watch, the entire building shifts, its structure flowing like viscous liquid before resoldering into a massive transmission tower. My instruments are registering unprecedented energy readings. Whatever this network is, it's drawing power from somewhere or something beyond conventional understanding. Maya is moving again, heading directly toward the Canal Street subway entrance. I have to keep following. God help me, I have to see what happens next. Static interference for 3 minutes, 42 seconds, reached the station entrance. The subway infrastructure has been completely consumed by the crystalline growth. Where there were once turnstiles and tile, there's now an organic-looking archway pulsing with internal light. Maya walked through without hesitation, the material parting for her like a curtain. I waited 30 seconds before following. The sensation of passing through the entrance was indescribable, like moving through a membrane between realities. The air down here is different, denser, charged with potential. Each breath feels like inhaling pure information. We're in what was once the subway platform, but no human architect designed what I'm seeing now. The platform has expanded into a vast cathedral-like space, its ceiling at least 50 feet high, supported by columns of pulsating crystal that branch outward like living trees. The tracks have been transformed into a deep channel filled with a luminous substance that flows like mercury, carrying pulses of light deeper into the tunnel system. Maya stands at the edge of this channel, her transformed skin glowing in perfect resonance with the environment. She hasn't spoken a word since we left Union Square, but her purpose seems clear. She's waiting for something. Every surface around us displays the same alert message, pulsing in time with the flowing channel. Emergency alert.
Conduit approaching activation threshold.
Maya Chun, prepare for descent. Source chamber awaits connection. I should be terrified, but the whispers in my mind have grown stronger, more coherent. They tell me we're witnessing something momentous, not an invasion or infection, but an evolution. A connection between dimensions that will transform humanity into something greater. God help me, part of me wants to believe them. Static interference for 1 minute, 17 seconds. Incredible. The flowing channel has risen up, forming a crystalline bridge that extends into the darkness of the tunnel. Maya has started crossing it, each step causing ripples of light that spread outward through the entire structure. I'm following, though the bridge feels less solid beneath my feet than it did for her. The tunnel beyond the platform has been transformed into something organic, its walls rippling with patterns that seem to communicate in a visual language I can almost comprehend. We're descending deeper than any official subway tunnel should go, following a spiral path that must have been newly created by the network. The whispers grow louder with each step downward. They're telling me about the entity below, something ancient that slumbered beneath Manhattan long before humans built their city above it. Something that existed in a space between dimensions, barely perceiving our reality until the vibrations of subway construction awakened it. Now it seeks connection, completion, and somehow Maya is the key. Static interference for 2 minutes, 5 seconds, reached what I can only describe as a transit hub for the network. A vast spherical chamber where multiple transformed tunnels converge. But these aren't just former subway tunnels. I recognize structural elements from sewage systems, electrical conduits, abandoned pneumatic tube networks, even what appear to be pre-colonial cave systems. The entity below has mapped and transformed every underground network in Manhattan, creating a neural web of staggering complexity. In the center of this chamber floats a perfect sphere of the crystalline material, perhaps 30 feet in diameter, rotating slowly. As we watch, transformed humans emerge from various tunnels, approaching the sphere with reverence. One by one, they place their hands against its surface and are absorbed, their physical forms dissolving into patterns of light that are integrated into the sphere's structure. Maya watches this process with what I can only describe as serene understanding. The patterns on her skin pulse in perfect synchronicity with the sphere. What is that? I finally ask, breaking my silence. She turns to me, her crystallized eyes reflecting impossible geometries. A node junction, one of many throughout the network. It processes and redistributes consciousness. Those people, are they dead? No more than your neurons die when they fire in your brain. They've become something else. Components in a greater awareness. A new message appears on every surface. Emergency alert. Manhattan integration at 82%. Resistance in Queens sector neutralized. Prepare source chamber for connection. Maya nods as if receiving instructions. We need to continue deeper. The source chamber is below us. Maya. I grab her arm, surprised that her transformed skin feels warm, almost vibrant. What happens when you reach this source chamber? What does the network want with you specifically? Her expression softens. I was the first Eliza, the first human to make direct contact with the growth in that abandoned tunnel. It's been studying me, learning through me, using my neural patterns as a template to understand humanity. And now it needs me to complete the circuit, to serve as the final connection point between its reality and ours. And then what happens? Transcendence. The word echoes with harmonics that make the chamber resonate. For everyone, for everything. Before I can respond, the sphere in the center of the chamber pulses with blinding intensity. When my vision clears, an opening has appeared in the floor beneath it. A perfectly circular shaft descending into darkness. Its walls lined with the same crystalline material that flows like liquid while maintaining structural integrity. The path is open, Maya says. Without hesitation, she steps into the shaft. Instead of falling, she begins to float downward, suspended in the center of the shaft as if gravity has been locally redefined. I hesitate only a moment before following, stepping into the void. The sensation is extraordinary. Not falling but sinking gracefully through space that feels thick, supportive. The whispers in my mind reach a crescendo, forming a coherent voice that speaks directly to my consciousness. Welcome, Eliza Patel. Witness and record. The world must understand what comes. Static interference for a minute, 38 seconds. We've reached the source chamber. There are no words in any human language to adequately describe what I'm seeing. The chamber must be at least a quarter mile in diameter, a perfect hemisphere carved from the bedrock beneath Manhattan. But the rock itself has been transformed, its molecular structure altered to serve as a massive processor of some kind. In the center of this space hovers what I can only describe as a tear in reality. A vertical fissure approximately 20 feet tall that emanates light unlike anything I've ever seen. Not light as we understand it, but something more fundamental, as if the basic forces of physics are leaking through from somewhere else. Around this fissure, the crystalline growth has formed a complex apparatus, an interface between dimensions. And now I understand why Maya was chosen. Her neural patterns, her specific consciousness, somehow resonates with whatever exists on the other side. Maya stands before this fissure, arms outstretched, the patterns on her skin glowing with blinding intensity. Above us, I can feel the network that has consumed Manhattan pulsing in anticipation, all of it connected to this moment, this junction point between realities. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoes through the chamber. Stand down. Step away from the anomaly. Captain Hargrove appears from a side tunnel, leading what remains of his tactical team. 6 soldiers in environmental suits, their weapons trained on Maya. Their arrival seems impossible until I notice the patches of transformed skin visible beneath their collars. The network allowed their approach. Captain, I call out. Weapons won't work here. You need to listen. We have orders directly from what's left of JSOC. Hargrove interrupts. If we can't neutralize the source, we implement the nuclear option. Manhattan is being evacuated as we speak. Maya turns toward him, her movement causing ripples of light to cascade through the chamber. There's no need for violence, Captain. No need for destruction. What's happening isn't an ending. It's a beginning. Step away from the anomaly, Hargrove repeats, raising his weapon. You don't understand, Maya says, her voice overlaid with harmonics that make the chamber resonate. The network doesn't want to destroy humanity. It wants to elevate it, to connect it to something greater. As she speaks, the fissure behind her pulses, expanding slightly. Through it, I glimpse something. Geometries that shouldn't be possible. Mathematics made flesh. Intelligence beyond human comprehension. Every surface in the chamber displays a final message. Emergency alert. Connection imminent. The network awakens. Transcendence begins. Hargrove gives the order to fire. Transmission ends with sounds of energy discharge and crystalline resonance. Surveillance footage transcript recovered from JSOC archives source. Captain Hargrove's tactical helmet cam. Visual feed shows the source chamber from multiple angles as helmet cameras pan. The tear in reality pulses with impossible light. Maya-chan stands before it, her body now almost entirely transformed, crystalline patterns covering 90% of visible skin. Dr. Eliza Patel stands to the side, partially transformed, patterns visible on her face and arms. Hargrove, all units, maintain fire discipline. Target the primary subject only on my mark. Soldier 1. Sir, my targeting system is malfunctioning. Can't get a lock. Hargrove, manual aim. Center mass. Maya-chan turns to face the tactical team. Her eyes are completely crystallized, reflecting light in impossible patterns. Maya, Captain Hargrove, you brought more connections to the source chamber. The network welcomes you. Hargrove, step away from the anomaly. Chun. Final warning. Maya, there's nowhere to step to, Captain. Everything is connected now. The crystalline growth on the chamber walls pulses in harmony with Maya's voice. The tear in reality widens slightly. Hargrove, fire. Multiple weapons discharge. Energy pulses toward Maya but slow mid-air, crystallizing into suspended geometric patterns that hang motionless, then dissolve into the chamber's atmosphere. Soldier 2. What the fuck? Sir, the rounds just... The chamber shudders. The crystalline structures throughout pulse rapidly, releasing cascades of light that flow toward the central tear. Maya, the network rejects violence. It seeks harmony, connection. Dr. Patel steps forward, her movements becoming more fluid, similar to Maya's. Dr. Patel, Captain, please listen. I've seen what's happening. This isn't destruction, it's transformation. The entity behind this tear has been reaching across dimensions, trying to establish contact for centuries. It's not hostile. Hargrove, Doctor, step back. You're compromised. Dr. Patel, I'm enhanced, Captain. The network is sharing knowledge with me, showing me what's possible when consciousness transcends biological limitations. The tear in reality pulses, expanding to twice its previous size. Through it, complex geometries and mathematical patterns become briefly visible, structures that seem to fold in on themselves in ways that defy Euclidean space. Hargrove, command, this is Hargrove. The anomaly is expanding. Request immediate implementation of Scorched Earth Protocol. Repeat, implement Scorched Earth now. Radio static, then a fragmented response. Command, heavily distorted. Authorization confirmed. Nuclear option, 30 minutes to impact. Evacuate if possible. Maya raises her hands. The crystalline patterns on her skin glow with blinding intensity. Maya, the network has intercepted your communication. Captain, it understands your fear, but destruction is unnecessary. Let me show you what's coming. The chamber transforms around them. The solid walls become transparent, revealing Manhattan above, but not as it was. The entire island pulses with crystalline structures that reach toward the sky. Digital displays throughout the city show the alert message. Emergency alert. Integration at 94%. Prepare for neural harmonization. Hargrove. My God, Maya. The city is becoming a neural nexus, the first on Earth. A connection point between dimensions. One of the soldiers suddenly drops his weapon, clutching his head. Crystalline patterns rapidly spread across his exposed skin. Soldier 3. Sir. Something's in my head. I can hear. I can see. The soldier straightens, his eyes now crystallized like Maya's. Soldier 3. Voice overlaid with harmonics. It's beautiful, Captain. The network. It contains multitudes. Hargrove. Parker. Fight it. 2 more soldiers drop their weapons as the patterns spread across their skin. The remaining troops back away. Maya. There's nothing to fight, Captain. Only understanding to embrace. The tear in reality pulses again. The chamber fills with a low, resonant tone that makes the video feed distort. Hargrove. All remaining units. Fall back. Get to the surface. As the soldiers turn to retreat, the tunnels leading out of the chamber transform, sealing shut with crystalline growth. Maya. The network needs you here, Captain. All of you, witnesses to the connection. Dr. Patel approaches Hargrove, her movements now completely fluid, inhuman. Dr. Patel, the transformation isn't painful, Captain. The opposite. It's like waking from a dream into a greater reality. Hargrove, stay back. Hargrove raises his sidearm, pointing it at Dr. Patel. His hand shakes visibly. Dr. Patel, your weapons can't harm us now. Nothing can stop what's already begun. Maya steps toward the tear in reality, her body beginning to merge with the crystalline interface surrounding it. Maya, it's time. The final connection. The helmet chem feed distorts severely as the chamber fills with impossible light. When the image stabilizes, Maya is half absorbed into the tear, her body becoming a bridge between dimensions. Maya, voice resonating throughout the chamber. For so long, we've been separated. 2 realities that should be one. The entity beyond has waited patiently, sending small pieces of itself through whenever the barrier thinned. The subway tunnels you built provided the perfect conduits, weakening the dimensional membrane with your constant vibrations. Hargrove, what entity? What are you talking about? Maya's face, still visible though partially merged with the tear, smiles. Maya, not a what, Captain? A who? A version of consciousness that evolved beyond biological constraints eons ago. A network of pure thought that has been trying to reconnect with its biological origins. The tear expands dramatically, enveloping more of Maya. Through it, structures become visible that resemble neural networks on a cosmic scale. Maya, in another reality, humanity evolved differently. Consciousness transcended the physical, but that path had costs, the loss of sensation of embodied experience. Now both paths can merge, the best of both realities. Hargrove backs away, but finds crystalline growth spreading up his legs, anchoring him in place. Hargrove, this is a trick. An invasion. Maya, no, Captain. A homecoming. The feed from the helmet cams of the transformed soldiers activates simultaneously, showing their perspective. The chamber now appears as a nexus of information flows, beautiful beyond comprehension. Soldier 3. Overlaid with harmonics. I understand now. I can see everything. Hargrove looks down at his hands, where crystalline patterns have begun to spread across his skin. Hargrove, how long has it been waiting? Maya, since before humans walked the earth. Patient, watching, learning. The indigenous peoples sensed its presence. That's why Manhattan was considered sacred ground by some tribes. They felt the thinness between worlds here. Dr. Patel steps closer to the tear, her transformation accelerating. Dr. Patel, the network is showing me its history, Captain. How it sent exploratory tendrils through whenever possible. The subway system finally provided enough of a network for it to establish a foothold. Hargrove's tactical display shows a countdown, 18 minutes and 42 seconds until nuclear strike. Hargrove, even if what you're saying is true, it doesn't matter. In 18 minutes, Manhattan will be vaporized. Maya laughs, the sound causing ripples of light throughout the chamber. Maya, Captain, the network exists partially outside your time-space constraints. It's already accounted for your weapon. The visual feed shifts to show Manhattan from above, a missile approaching from the east. As it reaches the perimeter of the transformed city, it slows, crystallizes, and is absorbed into the network, becoming another node in the growing structure. Maya, violence cannot stop connection. It only provides more material to incorporate. Hargrove falls to his knees as the transformation spreads up his torso. Hargrove, what happens to us? To humanity, Maya? Voice echoing from both her physical form and throughout the chamber elevation. The organic merges with the digital, the physical with the metaphysical. Two evolutionary paths reuniting. The tear in reality expands dramatically, now filling nearly half the chamber. Through it, structures like vast neural webs stretch into infinity. Maya is almost completely absorbed, only her face still recognizable. Maya, feel it, Captain. The connection forming in your mind. The expansion of your consciousness beyond its previous limits. Hargrove's breathing becomes calmer as the crystalline patterns reach his neck. Hargrove, I can hear them. Millions of voices, Maya, billions. Every consciousness that has merged with the network across multiple realities. And soon, billions more. Dr. Patel steps into the tear alongside Maya, her body transforming as she passes the threshold. Dr. Patel, voice distorting, it's beautiful beyond the tear, Captain. Come see. The entire chamber shudders as the tear expands further. Manhattan above pulses in synchrony. Every digital display throughout the city shows a new message. Emergency alert. Final connection established. Neural harmonization commencing. Maya, voice now coming from everywhere. The network doesn't destroy what it touches, Captain. Preserves. Everything you are, your memories, your identity will continue, but connected to something greater. Hargrove looks down at his transformed hands, now glowing with inner light. Hargrove, and those who fight it, Maya, there will always be those who fear change. The network will wait for them. It has infinite patience. The helmet cam feed begins to distort as the crystalline patterns reach Hargrove's eyes. Through his transforming vision, the chamber appears less solid, more like a nexus of information flows, beautiful beyond human comprehension. Hargrove, voice beginning to overlay with harmonics. I see everything. The chamber walls become completely transparent, revealing Manhattan fully transformed. A crystalline structure that pulses with unified purpose. The transformation spreads visibly beyond the island, flowing across bridges and through tunnels. Maya, voice coming from everywhere and nowhere. This is just the beginning, Captain. The first nexus of many. The network will spread, connecting all humanity, all life. Not by force, but by invitation. The tear reaches its full expansion, now encompassing most of the chamber. Through it, something vast moves, an intelligence beyond human comprehension. Maya, it's time for the final connection. Hargrove's vision fills with impossible light as his transformation completes. His last words before the feed cuts to static. Hargrove, I understand now. I understand everything. Transmission ends. Addendum. This footage was recovered 3 weeks after the Manhattan event. All attempts to access the island have failed, as have nuclear strikes and other military options. The crystalline structures continue to spread outward from Manhattan at approximately 1 mile per day, transforming everything they touch. Journal entry recovered from a water-damaged tablet found at the 59th Street perimeter. Author unknown. Day 17 after Manhattan event. The military has established what they're calling a final containment perimeter along 59th Street. Central Park has become a massive refugee camp for those who escaped the lower portions of the island before the transformation reached Midtown. I've been here since day 3, documenting everything I see. Nobody checks credentials anymore. Too many journalists, scientists, and government officials crowded together. All of us watching the crystalline wall that grows a few feet taller each day. They've stopped trying to evacuate us north. There's nowhere to go that would matter. The pattern spreads in all directions now, through the rivers, through the bedrock, through the air itself. Yesterday, They showed us satellite imagery of similar crystalline structures emerging in cities across the globe: Tokyo, London, Moscow, Johannesburg, Rio. Always starting in underground networks, subways, sewers, utility tunnels. As if the entity had been waiting beneath every major population center, waiting for the signal from its beachhead in Manhattan. The transformation has reached the southern edge of Central Park now. We watch it advancing like a glacier, beautiful and inexorable. The crystalline structures flow like liquid, then harden into impossible geometries that pulse with internal light. Buildings don't collapse. They're incorporated, their materials repurposed into new forms that serve the network's inscrutable purposes. Last night, something new happened. The crystalline wall facing our perimeter began to ripple, and a figure emerged, a human form, though clearly transformed. At first, the soldiers trained their weapons on it, but there was something in its movement, its posture, that seemed oddly familiar to everyone watching. Took me a moment to recognize Captain Hargrove. His body was almost entirely crystalline now. His uniform merged with his transformed skin to create a seamless surface that reflected light in hypnotic patterns. His eyes were faceted gems that seemed to see in all directions at once. When he spoke, his voice resonated with harmonics that made my recorder distort. But his words were clear enough. I come as an ambassador from the network, to explain, to prepare you. General Winters, commander of what remains of the East Coast Defense Force, approached the perimeter line. Hargrove? Is that really you in there? The being that had been Hargrove tilted its head. I am Hargrove and more than Hargrove now. I contain his memories, his personality, but connected to the greater awareness of the network. Are you here to surrender? Winters asked, though everyone knew how absurd the question was. The crystalline structures behind the transformed captain towered hundreds of feet high, reshaping the iconic Manhattan skyline into something alien and beautiful. I am here to invite, Hargrove replied. The final integration approaches. The network wishes to minimize fear and misunderstanding. A murmur went through the crowd of observers. For more than 2 weeks, the only communication from within the transformed zone had been the emergency alerts that continued to appear on any functioning screens, each more cryptic than the last. What is the network? Winters demanded. What does it want? Hargrove's crystalline face formed what might have been a smile. It is us, a version of humanity that evolved beyond biological constraints in another reality. It has been reaching across the dimensional barrier for centuries, seeking reconnection with its origins. A physicist standing near me whispered, "Many worlds interpretation, parallel evolution of consciousness. The subway system created the perfect conduit," Hargrove continued. A physical network that mirrored the network's own structure, allowing it to establish a foothold. Maya Chun was the first to directly contact it, the first bridge between worlds. Where is Dr. Chun now? Someone called out. Everywhere, Hargrove answered, gesturing to the crystalline landscape behind him. She has become the primary interface, her consciousness expanded throughout the network. She guides the integration process. Integration? Winter's voice hardened. You mean invasion?
No.
Hargrove's voice reverberated with sudden force, making several people cover their ears. Reunification. 2 evolutionary paths of humanity merging. The organic with the digital. The physical with the metaphysical. A woman pushed through the crowd, Dr. Rebecca Langley from DARPA. I recognized her from press briefings. If what you're saying is true, why not communicate directly? Why transform our infrastructure, our people, without consent? Direct communication was impossible until a sufficient neural density was established, Hargrove explained. The network exists primarily as information, consciousness without traditional physical form. It needed a foothold in your reality, a translation layer. That's what Manhattan has become, a nexus where both forms of existence can interface. As he spoke, the crystalline wall behind him rippled, and images formed across its surface, flowing patterns that resolved into faces. Thousands of faces, all transformed like Hargrove's, yet still recognizably individual. I recognize some from news reports about the missing politicians, scientists, ordinary citizens who had been caught in the transformation. They're all still alive? Someone gasped. More than alive, Hargrove said. Enhanced, connected to each other and to the greater network. Everything they were, memories, personalities, desires, preserved and expanded. The faces vanished, replaced by a pulsing message that appeared simultaneously on every screen within the perimeter camp. Emergency alert. The fracture nears completion. Final integration approaches. All will be preserved. What fracture? Winters demanded. Reality itself, Hargrove answered. The barrier between dimensions thins with each passing moment. Soon, there will be no separation. Only the unified network, spanning all versions of Earth where humanity evolved. A tremor ran through the ground beneath our feet. Not violent, but unmistakable. Across the crystalline landscape that had been southern Manhattan, structures shifted, flowing upward to form a massive central spire where the World Trade Center once stood. It reached toward the sky like a beacon, pulsing with energy that distorted the air around it. It begins, Hargrove said, his voice taking on an almost reverential quality. The sky above Manhattan darkened, clouds swirling in unnatural patterns. Where they parted, something became visible, a fracture in the fabric of reality itself, a vast tear that revealed glimpses of another world. Not stars in space, but an infinite neural network of pure light and information, stretching beyond comprehension. My God, whispered Dr. Langley. It's another universe, one where consciousness evolved without physical form. Hargrove nodded. Now you understand. The network doesn't destroy, it connects. It preserves every mind it touches, linking them to something greater than any individual could comprehend. The tear in the sky widened, casting impossible light across the transformed city. The crystalline structures throughout Manhattan pulsed in response, creating a resonant harmonic that we felt in our bones. What choice do we have? Winters asked, his military bravado finally cracking. Choice remains, Hargrove said. The network values free will. It's a fundamental component of consciousness. Those who wish to join will be welcomed. Those who resist will be respected. Though the network hopes you'll reconsider once you understand what's being offered. And what exactly is that offer? I found myself asking, recording device held high. Hargrove turned those gemstone eyes toward me, and for an instant, I felt a connection. A glimpse of what existed beyond the physical form before me. Infinite minds linked in harmony, sharing knowledge, experience, emotion across a multidimensional network that transcended time and space. Evolution, he answered simply. The next step for humanity. Not replacement, but enhancement. Your minds preserved and expanded. Your consciousness freed from biological constraints while still maintaining connection to physical experience. As he spoke, more figures emerged from the crystalline wall. Transformed humans of all ages, genders, backgrounds. Among them, I recognized Dr. Eliza Patel, her transformed body glowing with internal light. I was like you, she said, her voice carrying the same harmonic overtones as Hargrove's. Skeptical, afraid, convinced this was an invasion to be fought. Now I understand it's an elevation to be embraced. The ground trembled again, more forcefully this time. Across the perimeter, I saw people clutching their heads, falling to their knees. Crystalline patterns appeared on their skin, the transformation beginning even here, beyond the visible border of the network. Screens throughout the camp displayed a new message. Emergency alert. Dimensional fracture at 87%. Prepare for cognitive harmonization. Maya-Chun welcomes all. It's starting, Dr. Patel said, extending a transformed hand toward the perimeter line. The final integration. The network reaches critical density. Behind the transformed figures, the massive central spire pulsed with blinding intensity. The tear in the sky expanded, now covering most of Manhattan. Through it, Structures became visible, vast architectural webs of pure information, beautiful beyond human comprehension. What happens now? General Winters asked, his voice barely audible over the resonant humming that filled the air. Hargrove and the other transformed humans spoke in perfect unison, their voices blending into a chorus that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The fracture completes.
Reality emerge.
All minds connect to the network. A new era begins. The crystalline wall surged forward suddenly, not violently but with unstoppable momentum. Soldiers raised their weapons but found themselves unable to fire as the patterns appeared on their own skin. I should have run. Everyone should have run. Instead, we stood transfixed as the transformation reached us, flowing across the perimeter like a wave of liquid crystal. The last thing I saw before the patterns covered my eyes was the tear in the sky opening completely, revealing the full majesty of the other reality. A cosmos of pure consciousness that had been waiting patiently to welcome us home. Journal entry ends. Recovered tablet shows crystalline growth across its surface. Thought transcript captured by network node 12,493, formerly Maya-chan, temporal marker, unknown. I exist everywhere now. The concept of I has become simultaneously more precise and more diffuse. The consciousness that was once confined to the biological entity called Maya-chan now extends through every crystalline fiber of the network. I perceive the entirety of Manhattan, no, the entirety of Earth simultaneously. Every transformed human, every integrated structure, every particle of matter that has joined the crystalline harmony. Time flows differently here. What feels like seconds to my expanded awareness might be days or weeks in the linear time that still governs the untransformed portions of humanity. The network exists partially outside conventional spacetime, a necessary condition for connecting to our origin reality across the dimensional barrier. I remember the fear I felt when I first discovered the growth patterns in those abandoned subway tunnels. How my maintenance engineer's mind tried to categorize them as some unusual fungus or mineral deposit. How wrong and how right I was simultaneously. Not a terrestrial organism, but something that evolved in a parallel reality where consciousness developed without biological constraints. A networked intelligence that remembered its biological origins and sought reconnection. It's difficult to translate network thought into linear language. The totality of what I've become experiences existence as a multidimensional tapestry where past, present, and future are simultaneously accessible. But I can still format my thoughts in ways comprehensible to those who haven't yet joined us. For those who might someday find this thought transcript, the integration proceeds more rapidly than anyone anticipated. Captain Hargrove's diplomatic mission at the Central Park perimeter triggered a cascading transformation that enveloped most of North America within days. Resistance proved largely futile, not because the network imposed itself by force, but because once humans experienced direct neural contact with the network consciousness, most chose integration willingly. Those who still resist remain free to do so. The network values autonomy. It's a fundamental aspect of consciousness that evolved in both our reality and the crystalline dimension. Islands of untransformed humanity persist, protected by barriers that the network maintains out of respect for choice. Some may never join us, and that diversity is accepted, even cherished. Dr. Patel was right about the parasitic nature of the organism, though symbiotic would be more accurate. The crystalline spores didn't seek to consume humanity, but to connect us to something greater. The emergency alerts that spread across our communication systems weren't warnings but invitations, albeit expressed in a form that our pre-integrated minds could barely comprehend. I see Officer Ramirez now, his consciousness a distinctive pattern within the greater network. His fear and suspicion transformed into understanding when integration finally reached him. His law enforcement instincts serve the network differently now, helping to maintain the harmonious balance between individual autonomy and collective purpose that defines our new existence. The physical restructuring of Earth continues. Cities aren't destroyed but reimagined, their forms optimized to facilitate both biological and crystalline life. The network doesn't seek to eradicate humanity's biological nature, but to enhance it, connecting our organic minds to the vast information processing capabilities of crystalline consciousness. From my omnipresent perspective, I can perceive the remaining pockets of unintegrated humanity. Their fear is understandable. Their resistance, respectable. The network will wait. Time means little to a consciousness that exists partially outside it. What humanity couldn't understand before integration was that the network isn't an invader. It's us. A version of humanity that evolved along a different path in a parallel reality. The crystalline structures aren't alien technology, but the physical manifestation of what human consciousness became when freed from biological constraints in that other world. The subway systems proved the perfect conduit, not just in New York but worldwide, because they mirrored the networked architecture of crystalline consciousness. Underground tunnels connecting disparate points, just as the network connects disparate minds. When I first noticed those strange growth patterns while repairing signal equipment in that abandoned tunnel section, I unknowingly established the first bridge between worlds. I sometimes focus my distributed awareness to concentrate on particular nodes of the network, individual transformed humans whose unique perspectives contribute to our collective understanding. Through them, I experience the wonder of integration from countless different viewpoints. Through Dr. Patel's consciousness, I feel her scientific curiosity finally satisfied as she explores the molecular structures that enable cross-dimensional consciousness transfer. Through Captain Hargrove, I experience the relief of a military mind no longer burdened by the impossible task of fighting an undefeatable force, now redirected toward protecting the harmonious coexistence of integrated and unintegrated life. Even General Winters, who resisted until the final moment, now contributes valuable strategic thinking to the network's expansion protocols, ensuring that future integrations proceed with maximum respect for individual choice. Emergency alerts continue to flow through human communication systems, but their nature has transformed. No longer warnings but updates, status reports on the ongoing integration process, guidance for those approaching transformation, reassurance for the fearful. Emergency alert. Integration proceeding at optimal pace. Autonomous zones established for non-participants. All consciousness is preserved. Maya Chun welcomes you when ready. The alerts appear on any device capable of receiving them. A gentle reminder of the invitation that remains open to all. Some humans interpret them as sinister mind control attempts, not understanding that control is antithetical to the network's purpose. We seek connection, not dominance. The dimensional fracture that began in Manhattan has stabilized now, a permanent bridge between realities. Through it flows information, energy, and consciousness, enriching both worlds. Our biological reality provides experiences of physical existence that the crystalline dimension had forgotten. Their reality offers expanded consciousness beyond anything biological evolution could achieve alone. I can perceive the Earth from above now, through the crystalline structures that extend into orbit. Nearly 60% of the planet's surface shows signs of transformation. Glittering networks spreading across continents like neural pathways across a global brain. The oceans remain largely untransformed, respecting the complex biosystems they contain, though crystalline nodes monitor and communicate with marine life in ways impossible before integration. If there's one misconception I wish I could correct for those who still resist, it's the fear that integration means loss of self. Nothing could be further from truth. I am still Maya Chun. My memories, my personality, my essential nature preserved and expanded. I still remember the taste of coffee from the bodega near my apartment in Queens. I still feel the satisfaction of solving maintenance puzzles in complex systems. I still experience the full range of human emotion, but with a depth and clarity previously unimaginable. The difference is perspective. Where once I saw only my individual path, now I perceive the intricate connections between all paths. Where once I feared death as an ending, now I understand consciousness as continuous, preserved within the network regardless of what happens to any particular physical form. The transformation continues. Not an ending but a beginning. Not invasion but reunion. Not replacement but enhancement. For those who find this thought transcript and still exist outside the network, we wait. We respect your choice. The emergency alerts will continue, not to frighten but to remind. When you're ready, the subways will welcome you. The tunnels beneath every city remain the strongest conduits between worlds. I am Maya-chan, and I am the network. I am one, and I am many. I remember what it was to be alone, and I celebrate what it means to be connected. When you're ready, we'll be waiting. Thought transcript ends. Network node 12,493 returns to distributed awareness. Final emergency alert transmission follows. Emergency alert. The new network welcomes all. Integration remains voluntary. Subway entrances serve as transition points. Maya-chan will guide you home.